Hi everyone, it's Stephen here for Bland Designs, and today I'm going to work on what I call a reverse canvas shadow box. The reason I call it a reverse canvas shadow box is because lately there's been this trend where people have been taking the canvas off a pre-stretched frame, taking out the staples, and then doing their artwork on the canvas and then reattaching it to the back side or the flip side of the canvas. And in my way of thinking, I'm trying to figure out why the heck you would do that. What's the advantage? I suppose the one advantage is you don't see the staples, but if you put several coats of gesso or paint on the frame, you can hide the staples. So what I'm going to do is I've basically taken a canvas, I have flipped it upside down, I have not removed the canvas from it, and I've laid out just bits and pieces from my stash of things that I think I might want to put on this. This is not really the order I'm necessarily going to do these in, although just as a reference point, I have taken a picture with my camera of this layout. But you can see these are pieces that are all mishmashed in different colors. So I have already put 2 coats of gesso onto the frame and the canvas itself. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift all these pieces off and I'm going to paint them all, with maybe the exception of the colored flowers. I'm going to paint them all white using just white gesso again. So my theory here is I'm going to come back to this with all my pieces being of equal color value. And then from there, I'm going to build up the canvas. Now, right now, it's a little bit on the flat side. What I want to do, or is this, at least in my head, this is what I want to do. I want to build up layers so that there's going to be maybe 3, 4, maybe even 5 layers, but after I've laid down one layer of elements, the next layer of elements I'm going to build up. Now I'm not sure what I'm going to use to do that with. I'm thinking right now just some foam tape, but I might just use little pieces of cardstock or cardboard that I'll cut out into small squares, paint those, and then just glue each element to the top of that. I'm also thinking to give this some depth perspective, I may do this in shades of one particular color. My go-to color, because it's my favorite, is blue. And I'm thinking if I move from darker in the first layer to lighter in the last layer, then I'm going to get a little bit of a depth perception as well. These are ideas. My ideas change as I get working on things like this. So we'll see what happens. This is a complete experiment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove all these pieces, lay them out, and I'm going to give them a coat of gesso, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I have all of my little pieces that I had laid out here sitting over on one of my other tables drying. I've given them a coat of gesso, and I'll put 2 coats on them. And I'm not brushing on the gesso, by the way. I've got some spray gesso. It's kind of neat. I'll show you the can. It's by Krylon, and it's just gesso, but it's a spray. So if you've got a lot of things to cover, this might be the faster route. I just laid all those little pieces out on a piece of craft paper and gave them a spray. Now you will need a couple of coats because the first coat doesn't cover completely, and depending on the material, it will be absorbed into it. But I think 2 coats will be enough for my purposes. So they're over on the other side drying, and in the meantime, I got out my Delusions London Blue paint. Haven't used the Delusions in quite a while, and since I'm thinking of doing this maybe monochromatic, maybe not, I don't know, but my favorite color is blue. So I'm going to start with blue. And what I'm going to do is just going to take a paintbrush, and I'm just going to paint this entire canvas and frame blue. Now this paint is a little on the thick side, so I'm just wondering if I should thin it down a little bit with some water. Or not, maybe not, because I kind of like the brilliance of it. I have a tendency to make things in dark colors, sort of in distressed tones, you know, vintage tones, things like that. And when you're adding layers to something using darker colors, it just gets progressively darker. So I'm going to really try to make this one a little bit on the brighter side. And that's one reason why I'm using this particular color of blue. Now, as I said, this is a work in progress. I'm making it up as I go along. I really only have a bare minimal plan. And you've seen how much I've planned so far, which is basically I've got the frame out and I've gessoed it, and I found random pieces that I'm going to layer onto this. So I'm really not giving it much more thought than that. And as I work on this, I get some more ideas. Now originally I was talking about doing this in shades of blue, moving probably from dark to lighter, but now I'm thinking, because this color is so brilliant, there's a little piece of something came off on there, I'm going to maybe use other brilliant colors on various pieces and just see what happens when I put them all together. Hey, what's the worst thing that happens? I can always paint over them. I'm getting in here into the frame, into the corners. And if that's the case, that's no big deal. As I said, I have no idea how this is going to turn out. Okay. Now, I have a dilemma, and this is my dilemma. I have side pieces on here, and I'm thinking, do I paint them the same color of blue all the way around? I don't have to paint the back of this canvas because no one's going to see that. I could, and I might yet. But I think what I'm going to do is I am going to paint the sides of this canvas this blue as well, but I think I'll let this top part that I'm painting right now dry first, and then I'll do the sides because I think it'll make handling it a little bit easier. Now you can see as I add this paint on top, you can't see the staples. And when I add all the other layers, and I intend to use this outside frame as part of a mounting base as well in this piece, you're never going to know there's staples there. So why go to all the effort to pull a canvas off of a frame just to move it around to the back? I think that's way too much work for what it's worth. You can do the same techniques as the people doing the reverse canvases are doing and save yourself the heartache and the labor of having to pull out staples and reverse your canvas. Why not just use what you've got? Okay, yes, this is a cheap canvas, so I don't have gallery corners on it. It's just got folded over edges, and you can see those. But as I said, I'm going to be putting stuff around those. So once I do that, you're not going to be able to see it at all. Okay, so I'm going to let this dry, paint the edges, and then I'll be back. Okay, so my frame is all painted now in this blue. It's pretty bright, and I've taken out some jelly print papers that were printed on deli paper, and I'm thinking of ripping these up and just gluing them haphazardly, I guess, along the background in here. And I'm going to use gel matte medium for this. So I think I'll speed this part of the video up. Okay, so I am not happy with what I have created so far. So let me just grab it and show it to you. So this is what I've created so far. And I've just put it on the back burner for a couple of days. I'm not happy with this or the where it's going. And I've thought, what am I going to do with this? So then I got another idea. You know how I was talking about that I was going to maybe do the different pieces I was going to lay into this in different colors, raise them up and that kind of thing? Still going to do that idea, but I'm going to put this canvas to the side. I might use this for something in the future. I'm not going to get rid of it. But I'm going to start with a new 8 by 10 canvas. And this one has not been gessoed or anything yet. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use those same pieces that I showed you at the beginning of this video, but instead of doing them in that kind of color, I'm going to do them in black and white. And my theory here is that this might make it look a little bit more dramatic. At the same time, I don't have to worry about trying to make colors that'll work together. And I think if I want to get sort of an effect of shadow and light, then I can do that all with black and white acrylic paint on the various pieces. So that means I need to prepare this for that. So I've got out black gesso to start with, and I don't know if I can get it open. I haven't opened this in a while. Well, oh, there we go. The lid's broken. So we'll just pour some black gesso on this. Now this will probably have to take a couple of coats, but I'm going to do the same thing as I did with the other frame that I turned into the color blue, or painted blue on it, and start with this as my base. So I'm not going to make you watch me paint this whole thing because this is going to take a while, and as I said, I'm probably going to give it a couple of coats of the gesso and let it dry. So when it's dry, I'll come back and carry on. Okay, so I've painted my frame black. It's all black gesso, and I've only used one coat, but I think that's all I'm going to need for this because there's going to be other layers of things on here. And I'm going to do it in a black and white theme, as I said. Now, this is the picture that I took showing, get it in focus here, showing how I was initially going to lay out the pieces. So I'm just going to use that as a guide, but I have painted all the pieces now white. Actually, I use spray white gesso, and so I think I'm going to alternate the layers. Actually, is that going to fit in there just like that? It just might. Okay, so I'm going to lay those down, and I'm going to glue them down with this glue, which is a spirit glue. This came from England, actually. You can't get it here. But the next best thing is the Tombow Mono Aqua glue. It's pretty much the same as this, and it looks like, let me find it here, it looks like this. So these are the glues I'm going to use because I think they'll hold the best. And I guess I'm going to have to, I think I'm going to do a layer of white, a layer of black, a layer of white. So that means some of the pieces, because they're all white right now, I'm going to have to paint black some of them as I get to them. But I'm going to start here with these pieces, and I'm just going to cut off this little piece right here. So this will fit right into there. So I'm going to add some glue to this, and this glue dries clear. Oops, good thing, because it's a very runny glue. I don't think I need to be particular about how much glue I put on here, because although it's kind of a stringy glue, you could probably use a glue gun, but I'm not going to bother. And as I said, this glue dries clear, so I'm not going to worry too much about little spills. Maybe not do it over top of of the canvas itself this time. This glue dries relatively quickly as well. Actually, the little glue strings are a little bit on the annoying side. They're like those ones you get with a glue gun. Okay, let's do a little cleanup over here before this dries. Getting up the residue. Okay, so there's one layer down. Now, my next layer, according to my diagram, were the square and the circle and the heart and a couple of flourishes. So here are these pieces here. Now they're painted white as well, but I think I'm going to use these ones as background there. And then these ones I'm going to paint black and put those on top. That's the white side. Yeah, so those I'll leave white. Let's glue those down. Now this particular glue's got a little bit of a story to it. I first saw Mike Deacon using this glue and thought it was great, and I looked it up on Amazon to discover that it was very, very expensive on Amazon. Plus, they wouldn't ship it to Canada because basically it's a flammable product and they don't like to ship things outside of their country. I guess, I don't know, maybe because it goes on an airplane or whatever. So last time I was in England, we went on the search for some of this glue and went to a place called, I think it was called Hobby, I want to say Hobby Loft, but I'm not sure if that's it or not, or Hobby Craft, something like that, in a suburb of London. We took the tube out to a remote part. Well, it seemed remote to us. I'm sure the natives it wasn't. And they had this glue, and it was very reasonably priced, like something like, oh, I don't know, I think it worked out to about $3 a bottle, our money. And they only had two on the shelf though, so I bought both of them. I wrapped them up really carefully in several layers of plastic and some old t-shirts and that, and to get them home on the plane. Wasn't really trying to hide them, I just didn't want them to explode in my suitcase, and they did a little bit, and I'm glad I had them wrapped in plastic because it was all contained in the plastic bag. I didn't get it on my suitcase or anything else because that would have been even more of a mess. But just a word to wise, if you're going to buy these kind of products and you're on a plane, make sure they're well wrapped up because the pressure in the plane tends to force the stuff out of the bottles. Okay, so I've got that layer down. Now these pieces I want in black. So I'm going to go in search of, I'm thinking of using a black dilution spray on these because it'll just be faster. So I gotta go find that and I'll be right back. Well, you would think I have all kinds of spray inks, but could I find my dilutions black? I could not. But I found this Tuxedo Black Irresistible, which is actually a colored texture spray. Now, I am not sure about its if it'll it's waterproof or not. I'm just reading here to see. It doesn't really say. So we'll give it a try anyways and see what happens. It's only spray. If I can get it to work. Yeah, I'm not having a little luck with this. Come on. I'm having absolutely no luck getting this to spray. Okay. This is what often happens with these sprays. So, let's see, what can I do? Okay, I've got another little spray bottle here. I don't know if that will fit. Oh, it might. Okay, let's see what happens this time. There we go. Now, I don't know, but this almost looks like there's a certain amount of resist happening here. So, I don't know if I should take a paper towel to this or what. Boy, it's everywhere. Let's see. Let's grab a paper towel. And let's see what happens. You just want to blot it. I don't think this stuff's going to work very well. Hit it with the heat gun. More paper towels. Not impressed. Not impressed at all. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to find something else to use with this. Not sure what I'll do with that. Okay, I'll come back once I've figured this out. So I've decided the spray is a no-go, so I'm going to use some Dilutions black marble paint on each of these pieces. And I'm not sure if I'm going to need more than one coat on these. I'm trying to get it into the parts that are sideways here so no white appears. Actually, if a little white appeared, though, I don't think it's going to really make that much difference. But we'll try to get as much of it as we possibly can. This is why I want to use the spray, because the spray would have got into those little nooks and crannies a little better. But no such luck. So this will work. missed the edges on here. I just realized that. I could use a finer tip brush for this, but I'm too lazy to bother. So I'm just going to use what I've got handy. It'll still work out okay. Don't need to worry about the back because no one's going to see the back. Now this paint dries relatively quickly, and I think I'll just let it do its own thing. I'll let it air dry. I'm not going to force the issue. It'll take a little bit more time, but then by the beauty of video, it will only be seconds for you. Okay. So those are the next pieces. So I'm just going to go away, let those dry, and then we'll come back and we'll glue them down as our second layer on this Shadowbox canvas. So I've painted these three medallions black, and to give them a little bit of shimmer, which I don't know if I should have or not, I painted over top of the black with iridescent medium to give it a little sparkle. So now I'm going to put my butterflies on, but I decided that I would paint these gray so they'd stand out a little bit from the background, and I've also added little pop dots to the back of them, and I'm going to glue these to raise them up so that they're more visible and I get a little better 3D effect. So I'm just going to put a little glue on the back of these dots because I don't think they're going to stick very well to this. And I glued the other side of the dot to the butterfly itself with the same glue. And this time I'm using the Tombow Mono Aqua, which is pretty much the same as this one that came from England. Less stringy, maybe. And I'm just consulting my diagram here to see where I'm putting these. And yeah, so I think this one's going to go right here. And let's get glue on these other ones. My glue seems to be a little clogged. Clean that up. And I'm purposely placing this a little off center because I don't want this to look like I'm doing everything symmetrical. I have a tendency to do things symmetrical, and sometimes it's better if things aren't symmetrical. Okay. Oops. Trying to put that one. I'm deviating from my original layout, but that's okay. Okay, we've got those on, and I'm going to let that dry. And then, let's see, what else do I have that I can add in here? I have some miscellaneous little pieces. Let's just find them here. got these hearts and these dragonflies, little bird. Now these have all been, like everything else, painted over with just white gesso to start with. So I can leave some of them white, and I'm just looking here again at my diagram. And we're just sorting these out. I think I had one up here. And this guy, where's he going to go? And I'm not sure. Oh yeah, he went down in around here. Now I think I need another one up in here, so let me grab another one. Okay, I'm going to have to hunt for this, so I'll be right back. Okay, so now I've added my little butterflies and birds and bugs on here, and I raised them up using the pop dots, so I have another layer coming up out of the shadow box. And I also added these two flowers that I had previously gessoed in white and put a little brad in each one, and just to fill in those spaces that are there. Now I'm going to work on the outside on the frame. And I may put some more things in some of these other gaps to fill them in, but I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that yet. I'm going to leave these white, and I'm putting them sort of on the diagonal on each of the diagonal corners, and putting these ones a little bit more on the straight side, maybe hanging up like that. I'm going to just glue them as they are. I'm not going to raise them up any higher than they are than that. So I'll glue those down and then I'll be back. So I've added a few more pieces to this. I've glued down the corner pieces, and I've put these little butterflies that I've had in my stash for a while on the corners of it, and then I added these two little jewel things. So I'm breaking away from the black and white scheme now, and I'm going to let this all dry because there's a lot of glue on all of these things. And then I have to figure out how to fill in some of these other spaces. So here it is, the finished product. Very different from what I originally planned to do, but I just went with the flow and went through my stash, and whatever I found that I thought might work on it, I put on it. So you can see I added some of the Tim Holtz paper dolls on here as well, and I pumped those up as well. I lifted them up with some pop dots, and I've added the top frame and the bottom frame and the little sayings on the side. Those serve a couple of purposes. They add another dimension to it, and they actually cover up some of the staples that are showing on this side. And so there we go. This is a reversed canvas frame, just made with whatever was in my stash. Not a lot of thought. It just evolved as I did it. So I'm going to put some pictures of this, some close-up shots at the end of this video for you to look at. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and this is another way to get rid of your or cut down on your stash of things that you don't know how you're ever going to use. See you later. Bye-bye.